So our not very serious answer to this question is do all the things we tell you to do in the book. And then you will keep in mind the audience in order to have an invitational approach. But we can be a little bit more serious.
It seems to us that there are kind of some assumptions that you're always operating from when you're thinking about your audience from an invitational approach. And one of these is that if I'm invitational, I'll end up with a better understanding of something, a new perspective about something, I'll come to see something in a new way, I'll learn about something that I never had any idea that I might learn about. So there's just a sense of openness to what might come because you're not controlling the entire interaction.
A second assumption I think about the audience is that you have to sort of change the basic approach to the audience that we have in this adversarial argument culture that I talked about earlier. We often think that the only way we have of relating to people is by trying to influence them, trying to persuade them. And in fact, I had a student not long ago who said, well, if I give up trying to persuade, don't I give up the only way I have of influencing my friends? And we talked about that a bit and talked about that's sort of an interesting assumption that you don't have any influence or impact on somebody, even a friend, unless you are in persuasive mode. But think of all the other kinds of things that you can do with an audience. I mean, you can be affirming, you can be asking questions, you can be trying to understand, you can be appreciating. All of those are alternatives and certainly good ways to have impact on an audience, on another person, besides persuading.
I think another assumption is that it's okay if other people don't line up with what I think or what I believe. Sometimes I think it's hard for people to get that, to say, oh, okay, it's okay if you vote Democrat and I vote Republican, or you're for gay marriage and I'm against it, or whatever. Well, that's okay. That's how the world is. There are lots of different viewpoints, lots of different perspectives. Everyone comes to their view from their life experiences. Why do we need to go changing them all the time? Also, I think it would be a very boring world if you were able to change everything and everyone around you to line up with you. You wouldn't have much to talk about. You wouldn't have interesting things to interact over because you'd all think alike and believe alike, and we'd probably all just sit in the room and stare at each other. That doesn't sound very interesting to me.
So, in summary, I think the key point we want to make here is that an audience will feel valued when you try to understand their perspective, when you appreciate that perspective, when you're genuinely asking questions about that perspective. And so I think keeping that in mind, that the audience is more likely to actually feel safe, valued, appreciated when you make the effort to understand and engage in an invitational rather than a persuasive approach.